Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Letters to My Mentees. I'm your host, Joshua Burnell, and today we have our first guest. Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brandon Davis, and I am an Aggie alum coming from New York, and I'm still here in North Carolina. I'm going to do my master's, so hopefully I get to meet some of you soon when school starts back up this August.
And so we're going to get into Brandon's story in a little bit, but we just got to go through our usual stuff. So our wows today, or words of wisdom, is kind of statement. I forget who the quote's by, but it's a pretty general quote. And I think it addresses Brandon perfectly. Finding your passion isn't just about careers and money. It's about finding your authentic self, the one you bury beneath other people's needs.
You're right. You're definitely right.
And look, I'm still on that journey. I'm looking for new things. I think Brandon's completed at least one stage of that. Would you agree?
Well, I mean, you completed sooner than I have, so.
Look, yeah. I think we're all at different stages. We're all at different stages.
But I mean, at least you're happy with what you're doing, right?
Yes, I think I'm happy. And I do think self-reflection is always a good thing. And there's always more we can obtain. I'm not going to know. That sounds pretty greedy. I think there's always things to where our personality changes. And we may want something now, but who knows in the future? So I think we go through these complex changes.
I mean, that's exactly right. That's how I ended up as an engineer instead of anything else.
Okay. So I guess let's get to that then. So Brandon, introduce who you are just one more time to give a little people some insight.
For those of you who don't know, again, I'm Brandon Davis, and I am a mechanical engineering student. Was a mechanical engineering student, and now I'm going back again for my master's. And one piece of advice, if you're going to do grad school, just go straight through, because it's harder to get back into school when you stop. As many professors and other people who are in the mid-20s have told me.
Look, that'll be me in a few years. Just watch.
Yes, he's like, I'm not going to do it.
But yeah, so I wanted to talk about, so me and Brandon met, funny enough. I think it was Thermo, right?
Yeah, it was definitely Thermo. Oh, man.
Thermo, my sophomore year of college, and you're, I think you're second junior year of college.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. First junior year of college felt like.
First junior year of college. And I think, yeah, Brandon was a person who I found interesting because I think Brandon had a lot of love, and I think it came from finding what he was interested in, but it was like he was doing so much at the same time. So let's break into that a bit. Explain kind of your background and like where you came from to give people an insight of how much you went through to kind of get to this point. This
could probably be for those who are even still in high school. Depending where you go, you may not get that enrichment of like someone like guiding you or like figuring out what your interests are or asking you about that. So long time ago, in 2012, when I graduated, I started doing online classes at the infamous school called Liberty University.
Why is it? So it's not infamous.
You want to know why?
It's not. Well, no. Is it infamous for your personal reasons or infamous for other reasons?
Oh, both.
Okay. But so tell people why it wasn't perfect for you. We're going to ignore the outstanding things. They can go look that up themselves.
I mean, they probably already know if they heard that term. Okay. So let me think. Well, one, it was too expensive. Well, I'll just say that it was a private school. So, I had to take out Sallie Mae. I had to take out a Sallie Mae loan, which thank my sister. She paid it all off without even telling me. So if she has I might listen to this, thank you, Donalyn, and I love you.
Family comes through.
Yeah, exactly. And that's who I'm mostly like. But there was that. Another thing is like I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had ideas. So I started out in computer science because my father did it, and I thought, since he did, I could do it. I could do it, but I just hated sitting in a computer typing code as like the only thing to be able to do. And if anybody who has ADHD, and is medicated, they already know like it's going to be a struggle. And another reason why it was infamous, let me think. While there was diversity there, it was almost like it was dampened. So like, I'm
clarify that a bit.
Yeah, so I'm from New York, and you get like the whole the whole melting pot. So they didn't really have much like culture, like or like events.
Okay.
And let me think another reason. Oh, there's another one. I already said that I didn't know what I wanted to do completely at the time. I just started in computer science, but I went through a few majors.
Okay. So you want to tell us what those were, I guess?
Yeah, I went from computer science to, I'm not going to tell them order because I kind of forgot, to counseling psychology, to physics.
I know about that one.
Yeah. It was just easy until I realized I had to write a lot. And I hate writing and reading. And then I went to physics and then to astrophysics. And then one day after I left Liberty, I came back to North Carolina because this is where my little brother lives. And I went to community college. And then someone one day, we were just talking in a parking lot. He was like, you know what? You should become a mechanical engineer or aerospace engineer. I was like, I looked at him and I just realized that's what I needed to do.
So you had your aha moment, I guess, there.
Yeah, literally, I had an epiphany. It literally gears started clicking in my head.
So I guess, what did you really learn from all those experiences? Because I think I know a lot of people, there's different types of people like you. There's some people who are afraid of failure, and that kind of puts them. So for them, I think you can give some guidance on like experiencing all those changes. So you want to give some advice on that?
Failure. For those who are afraid of failure, well, you're going to fail in some way. You're not going to, it may not be a complete failure, but you end up coming short in some way. But that's why they always say, practice in what you do. Like even in thermo, we did have some failures, but we still got guidance to make sure we won't fail again. So let me think how to deal with that. Yeah.
And I think all those different majors, I see a trend of where you got closer and closer to what you wanted to do, right? So you went from comp sci to psychology, which was left field, to physics and then astrophysics. Now you're a mechanical engineer who built a rocket, which we're going to get to. But yeah, I think all those experiences help you really find what you want to do. And I think that's insight to people that explore, do unique things.
Yeah. But if they want to also cut that time down, what I didn't think about at the time was not to also just find something you're good at, which I was good at, like, psychology classes. But for me, I'm bringing up the ADHD again, is to make sure you're not bored at all in what you're doing. Like, if I'm bored, like with a particular subject, like I'm going to do worse in that class no matter what. No medicine is going to help me do the best as I can. So, and that's why, for the most part, I did well in my mechanical engineering classes. So
let's shift to that. So I guess we can talk about when I met Brandon. So I met Brandon thermo. He sat right behind me on the left, and we ended up working. At that point, I loved thermo. I was at the top of the class, and part of that reason was due to fear, because one of the girls I met previously, who I was in my scholarship program, talked about, I got a 45 on the last test and I have the highest grade in the class. So I was like, look, I'm about to be working, but those office hours. And so it was one of those things where I was doing good, but Brandon was like one of the 4 people in the class who everybody in the class knew I was doing good, but he was one of the only ones who asked for help. But with Brandon,
I wasn't even doing that good either. I wasn't even doing as good as I should. I didn't have time to put in the effort to do good. But
so let's go into that.
The professor was actually really good in what he taught, so I was able to get the actual important stuff down. It was just performing on the test was a bit hard when we're kind of falling asleep through it.
Okay, so let's go into that, because I think you definitely you found a love, but you also had a dedication to hard work. So Brandon, explain your schedule when we were like going to class.
Oh man.
Yeah. Brandon had one of the toughest schedules I've ever seen. Not only class work, but just everything personal life wise.
I'm not even talk about when I go to bed, but I had to get up at 2 a.m. to go to work at part-time at UPS. which many other students have as well when they talk about how rough it is. And you don't get days, they don't work with your schedule really, sadly. So I would go to work from 2 to 8:30 to leave there to get to class by 9 o'clock. And then it was like 9 to 9:50. Then we had an hour gap before thermo. And then that would end like at like 1 p.m. And then have another class mid-afternoon, like 2 to 3. And then one from 5 to 7. And then I had to get home, shower, because I haven't showered. I was a preloader, which is like, you load the actual trucks and whatnot. So I'm already smelling bad the whole day. So it was tough. And I literally had to like pick and choose what homework I should start on. So I had to like strategize like what to work on first and what I'm going to take some sort of losses in learning in terms of practicing and reading. Like with thermal books, I kind of skimmed through it. I did my best, but I also understood it already. So that's why I was able to do that.
Look, and that's really what it's about. The material, not how you get it, but if you get it and you can apply it.
Yeah.
And I think it shows because I'm not going to say I got an A in that class, but I definitely do think you have a little more mastery of the subject than I do.
Not as much because I didn't really, because you took applied thermo, so I didn't really actually get to apply thermo.
Yeah, you took propulsion. And for those who don't know, Brandon's, I did the regular mechanical engineer because I like I'm in med tech. I love my med tech and that was my interest. Brandon's an aero guy. So again, I think after this point, you quit your job after this, right? Like after that year?
Oh, yeah, I quit it for like a little bit during, I can't remember if it was before or after the final exam. I can't remember. What my supervisor at the time, whose also name was Brandon, or no, sorry, never mind. No, that was his name. That was Brett. But I got hurt on the job, so he let me get time off, and that allowed me to recuperate for one of the final. The only deal was like, he said, all right, if you get paid time off, I can't let you be gone for that long. So that was the deal. I got off a little longer. Even though I was unpaid, it was nice. I needed to focus my studies and I was able to pass thermo.
Yeah. And then I think from there, your deep dive into mechanical engineering kind of went forward because then you joined Aero from what I remember.
Yeah, that was that summer. I met Nor. That's how it all started.
Yeah. And I see it as you really kind of came into your stride, if I'm being right. You came into your stride at that point. You really found and loved what you did. So I guess you want to detail kind of what Aero is and what it meant to you and like how it took you to where you wanted to be.
Yeah, like so Aero. So I had to go back to where I first met Dr. Gazito because I don't know if I think he may remember the first time we've ever met, but when I first transferred A&T, if you probably know that you had to like talk to somebody to actually get your to transfer to a different college of like, I was at the College of Physics when I first transferred here because I was missing a class or something like that. And the first person we had to talk to was Dr. Gazito, and he was telling me about his previous NASA projects and the things he had done. Like there was no mention of air at the time. And it wasn't until
it's funny.
Like Nora brought me in where I re-met Dr. Gazito and it all made sense. And I'm pretty sure he remembered me from way back then since that's how I ended up being recruited onto his rocket team. So I didn't have a choice. It was rocketry or nothing.
Look, once you get involved with Dr. Gazito, that's why like he even brought me to A&T and I still had to keep my distance because I knew if he likes me and I showed the inkling of like love of Aero, oh, that's where I'm going. My career trajectory. I'm going to work for Boeing, SpaceX, NASA. Like it's no option, but it worked for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even that big into planes. I just like anything that's off the ground. It's just what keeps me focused, if that makes sense.
Keeps you uplifted, I would say.
Yeah. Definitely lifts me up.
So I get, and then, in typical mechanical engineering fashion, we went from thermo to fluids, and we had Dr. Gazito, which I always find as that was a learning experience. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. No, yeah, they did him dirty. That's all. That's all I'll say.
And then when we move from there, I guess we really move into, I guess, kind of senior year, because I think junior year, I'm not going to say it's a blur, but for us, it really.
I mean, it was because of COVID.
Yeah. COVID was a real hassle, but we still had our struggles. ME design, heat transfer.
I mean, it's bad enough that I didn't really even like ME design as a subject too much. Sadly, it's easy, but you know.
So that's a lesson for everybody out there. When you are getting your degree or like studying whatever, you don't have to like everything you study.
Yeah, but it was. I didn't like it, but it was interesting. It had the bare minimum of interest. Like, oh, I can actually use some of this.
So you can relate it.
Yeah, because granted, but I can't believe I'm about to say this. I enjoyed the actual projects that we had because we had to actually how do I say this? I enjoyed the idea of the projects because we had to actually be an engineer and design something. Granted, the specifications or limits weren't all that clear, sadly, until, after going back and forth, but it definitely helped with senior year.
And so let's move into like our final stretch, because I think this is a funny one, because whereas I decided to build a boat with some would call electrical liability, being a homemade battery, Brandon and another friend of ours decided to build a rocket. So he went from let's get this track. He went from comp sci to psychology to physics to astrophysics to mechanical engineering to building planes, and now he's building a rocket. So let's go into that. So clarify the background of this. I'm partially involved in the story, but it's your story now. Y'all can have it.
You want to know how I got into rocketry, or how rocketry went?
Let's do both. Let's do both.
Well, I mean, me personally, how I got into rocketry was, growing up, I saw Star Wars, and then another one was I don't know if anybody knows, it's an animated show called Titan AE.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, even other cartoons like showing space travel and all of that. My father took me to a planetarium. Well, no, an observatory. Yeah, an observatory when I was younger as well. So that was already beaten into me as a kid. And, naively, I wanted to be an astronaut. I kind of would have probably missed the deadline to even become one, even if I still was on the right track, because they already have their team selected for Mars. So I'm just going to have to wait until, one of those billionaires decides to bring more people. I almost took up Elon Musk on his offer, because to go to Mars, I had to work it off. I mean, I'm at Mars, so I'm either going to be living the life, or I'm going to be, not being able to breathe anymore. So that's how I ended up getting into rocketry. Now, to get how the rocketry team came to be, as I was talking to you earlier about Dr. Gazito, he way back there, this was the summer or whenever I transferred, I can't remember anymore. He was talking about doing something rocketry related and trying to get the funding and grants from NASA. We didn't end up getting it from NASA, but we ended up getting it from Northrop Grumman. Yeah, Northrop Grumman, which is how rocketry came to be. And since he remembered that conversation years ago, he just selected me, and I was happy with it. I'm glad I did that instead of the CubeSat, because even though CubeSat's closer to actual, what's the correct term?
Launching satellites.
Yeah, because I want to get into propulsion mostly. It would have been a good fit, because I don't think they probably actually dealt with the actual propulsion system for being in space. So rocketry was the more fun option, because one, I had to safely do some testing with energetic materials, so like black powder and.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Now on campus, I had to make sure you don't do it on the campus. And the motor itself, which was, I can't even describe the motor. I wish I would came with the videos to show you, but that was the highlight of working on rocket, even though it only lasted for 2 to 3 seconds.
So I guess, can you explain the goal of your rocket? Because I think people need to clarify because some people might think you're launching some bottle rockets, but no, tell them exactly what you did.
Okay, the specification. So the goal of this event called NASA Student Launch was to send a rocket anywhere between 3,500 feet to 5,500 feet. And I'm not gonna get into like the scoring ratios or anything like that, but during that time, you'll have to aboard. You'll have a payload, and in that payload, there's going to be a camera. So once the rocket has reached its apogee or its max height, the parachute would deploy. Well, the drogue chute would deploy, and once it gets low enough for the main parachute to deploy, at around, let's say, like 1,000 feet, the payload will release, and it will float down, obviously with the parachute. And once it lands on the ground, it has to land upright and then take a 360-degree picture of its surroundings. Now, we didn't unfortunately get to finish that part. I think COVID definitely restricted us in terms of like the actual hours we could actually put in, because it wasn't until the second semester of our senior year where the school actually let us work together on things.
You were putting in some hours though, because I remember coming into school to let your team captain in at 2 a.m. because he locked himself out of the lab.
Yes, and you sometimes.
Or I'd just be at school, having to strip paint off my boat. But I think you guys really loved it because your dedication was there. You were there from sunup to sundown to sunup again. Sometimes you even slept in the lab, which again.
Oh, well, there was no sleeping though. That's the thing.
There was no sleeping. There was staying until hopefully you were finished. But I guess you guys did get to launch though, right?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the payload part, many of the other teams didn't even get their payload successfully launched, like not even NC State. But we had a successful, I was called a standard launch, where the rocket, by the way, is 8.5 feet long. Weighed about, I can't remember, between 30 and 40 pounds. And it went up around 4,000 feet.
Almost a mile.
Yeah. Which I found out is like just this 5,000 feet short of what planes come in to descend. Like when they're descending, like I saw like when I was traveling to New York, I saw like the actual like altitude we were at, and we were just a little bit between 10,000 and 11,000 feet. So I was like, oh, that's
So that's why they have those clearing, like you have to be in these certain places to launch.
Yeah. That's why, they had to give you guidelines. And because if we're at a military base, they'll shoot our rocket down. So all that worked for nothing. But yeah, so for the standard launch, there's the terms. So there's 2 stages. So when it comes to, dual deployment, that's what it's called. You have your drogue chute, or for smaller rockets, a streamer, which slowly slows the fall of the rocket. And then you have the main parachute, which had to be no less than 500 feet. And that's just the main parachute, which, oh man, you'll underestimate the strength of a parachute. It's a 120-inch circumference. And let's say it dragged me and 4 other people as we were trying to pulling in when the rocket landed. So I had to jump on the parachute to get it back in. But yeah, so we got that. Definitely works, and it was able to fly again right afterwards, because that was a big part of the competition, was for it to not just fly once.
Okay, so again, COVID canceled the competition, but
no, it didn't cancel. We just couldn't go to Alabama, but
so it made it a virtual event.
Yeah, because they worked with everybody around, so they did this, like the scoring with like the Rocketry Association people and all that. But okay, sadly, we weren't able to compete because I can't remember what deadline it was. There was like a deadline we kind of missed. It was what was it? It was the subscale, the one that was in the fall, like that had to be launched. But it's kind of hard to do subscale rocket when you have 2 people doing it all themselves. So we slightly missed the deadline after that. But that was also our fault, not just because of missing it, but we could have stayed in competition if you communicated that to NASA a lot sooner.
So deadlines.
Communication is key.
Communication is key.
Yeah. Even with the big wigs.
Truly with the big wigs.
Yeah, I didn't expect NASA to be so understanding. I was surprised.
So I guess after this, we both graduated this fall, Aggie alum class.
Wait, not fall.
This spring, May 9th, we graduated May 9th, 2021. And I guess, so you made the decision to go to grad school. And I guess that's I think a lot of people don't have access to that decision making, or there's a unique take. And so I want to understand why you chose grad school for one thing, and what motivated you to kind of stay at A&T when it came to grad school.
And I'll be honest. So I was kind of, obviously, I didn't want to I barely like school unless it's something I'm interested in, clearly. But I like to learn, but it depends on what I'm learning. So many professors, like Dr. Zito, of course, and Dr. Axon, we were all talking about my interests in propulsion and whatnot. And Dr. Axon was the one that told me that, in the industry, they definitely would want somebody with a master's. And where Dr. Zito comes into play is that I'll be doing something that deals with what I want to do in the industry. So I want to work on rocketry propulsion or ion propulsion, which is what they use for satellites. So Dr. Jackson, Dr. Zito told me that if I go to grad school, I don't know if I can say this, I'll get a good deal by going to grad school. So now I don't have any loans. I'm not taking out any loans. And I won't be working because they don't want me to work they really don't want you to work during grad school. So they'll more likely help you with that.
So you can pay to go to school, basically.
Yes. I got a scholarship. The Corning Scholarship, that's what it's called.
Okay, that's good to hear. And so I guess through all your trials we'll focus on grad school. Advice or reasons why people should go to grad school.
Oh, well, you should only this part's even going to undergrad. Only go if one, you really like what you're interested in, or I'm assuming you're not just talking to MBs here.
Talking to everybody.
Okay, yeah. So, or if you actually need to, if I was to become the counseling psychologist, I would have to go get my PhD. And two, make sure you won't be bored at all. It literally has to not feel. So when I was doing rocketry, I actually kind of forgot that I was actually doing it for a grade at times, because it almost was it almost became a hobby. And if I could afford it, it probably would be a consistent hobby. And three, so if you want to continue at the same school, definitely do so, because when you are going to go into grad school at another school, you have to establish connections with other professors, and that's harder from a distance as opposed to actually have been there with them and they already know you. So I already had the connections I have, and I guess the professors actually know me to where it's not just student to professor. Sometimes it's just they talk about actually who they are.
So you got to know them as people. You didn't have to reinvent your family in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, off of grad school, any general advice before we move into our closing segment?
Let me think. Any general advice? Try to figure what we didn't cover in terms of advice.
I think don't be bored with what you do is a great one, because a lot of people go to school for the money and they hate what they do or they're not invested in it. But don't be bored is a great one.
Yeah, that saved me for even more heartache. And community college. If I went to community college, I would have skipped this whole track instead of going straight to university. So don't sleep on community college. It's like the trial version of university. And it was how I wouldn't have even known A&T was in North Carolina at that point. Cause I didn't even know, cause I already knew the schools existed a long time ago. Even in Drumline, I knew it existed, but I had no idea it was in North Carolina.
That's your reference.
I thought, cause I remember looking it up as a kid and I already knew they had engineering. And for some reason, I guess I had a slip of the mind. I thought it was further south, not Tennessee.
Thought it was in Atlanta. You thought it was in Atlanta, didn't you?
Probably, yeah. So this lady, she told me I had two choices: state and A&T. And she was like, trust me when I say this. This was a white lady. She said, I know you'll definitely shine at A&T. And at first I thought, I was like, remember that. I didn't say that to her, but I mean, I guess she already knew because I was more doing like aero stuff, and as a black man, of course, I'd be more comfortable being around at a predominantly black school. So she was right.
Yeah. As they say in rocketry or space travel, shoot for the moon and land among the stars, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. I just had make sure. Oh yeah, guidance. If you're not tight with your advisors, you definitely should have to get a new one or get closer to the one you have right now. Because I may have tried to go into state instead and not have been as happy, and I'd be more broke.
So I guess we'll move on to our closing segment now. So as you all know, we call these the end of the day 1, 2, 3s. So Brandon, again, just to explain this to you, one piece of content you love today, 2 major insights you made about life or the world, and then 3 things you're grateful for.
So you said one piece of content that I made today?
Yeah, that you love today or that you recommend to someone else.
Oh, that I recommend to someone else. Oh, okay. Thanks. I have to go get it. There's a book, and I mean, it's nothing like, it's just for fun. So if you ever heard of Percy Jackson in the Olympians series, there's I want to say like a spinoff. There's so the author has like a whole thing where he has like other authors like write books that are similar to his stories, and it's called Just Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky, and it's becoming my favorite book so far because it's literally about all this like the Black and African stories that we like heard when we were younger, like John Henry, like all those stories, but all those characters are in a world themselves. And I thought that was just a really cool book that I stumbled upon. So I don't have it with me, otherwise I'll show you what it is. Oh.
One more time, the title?
Tristan Strong, like, muscle strong, punches a hole in the sky.
Okay. And then now 2 insights you had about the world or life as we know it.
2 insights. Well, I mean, this has been told to me ever since I was young, and it literally applies even in thermodynamics. Nothing in life is free. Like, I'm not talking about monetary. I'm not like anything you put in, something comes out. Like, everything comes at a cost. And the second one was, again, I'm gonna reiterate, if you're gonna have to work for a good portion of your life, or somehow Dogecoin makes like a big old increase, you get lucky. Make sure you're not bored doing what you do. Because even rich people who are bored doing what they do, they somehow end up getting in trouble doing crazy things. And I forgot what the other. And
then 3 things you're grateful for, or express gratitude for 3 things.
Well, it's my sister, because she was the only. I would have just went straight to. I probably wouldn't have even gone to grad school yet, and I just would have been straight working if she didn't pay off my student loan. The bonds that I've made at A&T as well, of course, definitely A&T, because I mean that's why we're talking even now. I know I probably wouldn't have gotten that if I went to state or anything like that, because even when I was at Liberty, I don't think there was that much of a student cohesion, or I hate to say it, make me sound old, or group me wasn't even a thing when I started college. So that was nice to have. Am I on 2 or 3 now?
You're on 2, just one more.
And the third one is honestly the rate at which technology is changing. Like, I'm thankful, to be able to I'm thankful that we're able to grow up in the age of where we're pushing the boundaries of everything we do. Like, we're not just we're still in the infant stages of technology, but we're not in our parents' generation where a whole computer span
takes up house.
Okay, yeah. That's what my father was telling me when I went to go visit him in New York about how computers were and floppy disks, all that. So I'm definitely grateful that we were better off in terms of learning, because he told me he had to learn the hard way, and he even said himself that he was almost acting like I think he's classified as a boomer. He was acting like a boomer, and that he had to understand that we also work in different ways, like he discovered that, you know, at first he was like apprehensive about, you know, people working with the headphones in. But once he saw like that's just what helps him work, he was able to change and adapt. And that applies to technology as well. It's always constantly changing, adapting, and hopefully improving.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
well, thanks, Brandon, for showing up. I thank you for being a part of this project. And that has been episode 2 of Letters to My Mentees. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever else you find podcasts. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.